This Enjoy Illinois 300 Betting Picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 100 times your entry with Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Sign up with promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. We are also brought to you by the Mega Memorial Merch Sale. 15% off of everything in the SGPN merch store with the promo code SGPN. May act now as the sale ends on Friday.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
$25 hours a day, 8 days a week. We are here to talk racing things. It is, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. And today, I know the days are shifted a bit. And if you're listening on a Wednesday or a Thursday thinking this Cup episode seems a little off, I get it. We're sorry. But balancing everything is always a chore nowadays. And, we during the holiday weekend, we had to shift everything back. But it is Cup Day for us. We have a full slate of odds, almost like maybe today because we got a whole bunch of stuff to choose from. But yeah, Cody, this is the Enjoy Illinois 300, where the Cup guys will be at Gateway while the Xfinity guys go play in Portland.
Yeah, this race, Rod, almost as long as last week's Coca-Cola 374.5. So there you go. It's it's going to be like the same thing.
Yeah, if you missed the recap show last week, if you even missed the race last week, that's okay. Blinked and you missed the 600, which wasn't the 600. So much coming off the heels of that. So many controversial takes on whose fault it is fingers pointing everywhere. More fingers pointing than a Spider-Man meme on this as far as whose fault it was. I don't think we'll ever really know full answer for a while.
It doesn't really matter. Whoever it was fucked it up, Rod. So yeah, that's all
we know. Lynn talking about, I got to remember to go downtown and listen to the podcast later when it goes up. I always forget to do that when I watch it live. I mean, it's the same thing live, but King saying missed the 600 recap. Yeah. So let's say thanks to the 20 and 54 for turning $5 into $130. That's why we're here.
Yeah. I saw you had Christopher Bell to win and Gibbs to finish top 10. So, nice little payout for you there. Shout out to him, his guys taking care of him. And then, hey, it does help us if you, even if you listen live, if you download the episode later, we appreciate it because it doesn't go unnoticed for sure.
No, it does not. The bosses always love to see the download numbers. And once again, I mean, I know we said it yesterday, but big kudos to all of you out there as part of the Discord who have been skyrocketing our Discord channel up to the top 3 of the list of most popular Discords in the whole Sports Gambling Podcast Network. So if you are not there and you want to be part of one of the most happening spots in the space, sg.pn/Discord, definitely get in there and help that shoot up to number 2 at least, and then all the way up to number 1. We got to beat those MLB guys, right? And those NBA guys.
They do have like 162 games a year times, 30 teams. So I guess that probably helps them a little, but we're hanging out right there with them. So I think we're doing pretty good, Rob.
I think so too. In fact, you're talking about baseball. Let's talk about college baseball and what they've got going on, because the college baseball experience is all you need for the college baseball tournament, which starts on Friday. And Noah Bieniek has you covered with the college baseball experience. Plus, hop in the college baseball bracket contest. you're going to get a chance to win a $200 SGPN gift card. Look, I know it says NBA Gambling Podcast on that merch card, but very easily replace that with our Racing Gambling Podcast merch. Get in there, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bracket to get yours. When you win that, take that over to the merch store because we're running a mega Memorial Day merch sale. 15% off of everything in the merch store if you use the promo code SGPNMay. You see the snazzy little hats that they got going on. You see the hoodies. There's t-shirts. Don't worry. I put a hoodie on there because the hoodie looks better on the graphic. But there's t-shirts and all kinds of great Racing Gambling Podcast stuff. And remember us in the morning when you drink your coffee by getting one of those snazzy little mugs as well. Snazzy is my word for the day, Cody. I'll probably use it about 400 more times because I feel like I've used every word in the English language at least once so far. And snazzy is one that I haven't used very often. So sorry.
You know, I don't want to be too much of a copycat, but maybe we should take a thing out of the Kevin Harvick page and find that word you have to work into every show. And I don't know if you've heard that bit that they have. So they come up with a word every week, and Harvick has to work it into the broadcast somewhere. So maybe we'll start doing that. Make because Rod would be the one who would know how to do it. I would suck at it.
Well, it's in all full disclosure, the wife used to do that to me all the time when I was on the air. When I was actually on the radio, right, on terrestrial radio, I would get a text message with a word that I was going to have to fit into my next break. And it was fun because there was a lot of words in there that I was like,
you got to get creative. Like how do you work this in? It is fun to follow on the Harvick side of things. So do make sure you go get in that bracket though. It's like kind of like filling out a basketball bracket, right? Very similar to that. I filled mine out earlier, Rod. Of course, I got the Nebraska Huskies taking it down. College World Series is here in Omaha, so they'll have home field advantage when they get here. And they're going to win it all this season. So I'd advise you to do the same when you pick your bracket.
I stopped following baseball when I realized that the games were way too long for me. And look I know races are just as long, if not longer, but you know, there's 36 guys in action at all times. In baseball, there's like 2 at most in action at once.
I was real story, right? I was talking to my wife's grandfather the other day, and we got on the subject of baseball, and he was telling me how he used to be a Dodgers fan, and then he goes, but I kind of stopped following him when they moved to LA. I was like, oh, so it's been a minute, huh?
So you were old school Brooklyn Dodgers.
So you were a Brooklyn Dodgers fan like 100 years ago. I got it.
All right. Well, then, I mean, I wasn't a Giants fan until they moved to San Francisco, right? Back in the early 50s. But yeah. All right, Cody. Racing. There is actually some good racing stuff to talk about today.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, we got a ton of news. The dominoes already falling from the SHR news. Of course, we talked about that yesterday on the recap show. If you only listen to the Cup episode, picks episode here, you should be listening to every episode of the week. But we go back through, we recap everything on, well, either Sunday night or Monday usually. Of course, that was the Tuesday episode this week. But we did talk about all that yesterday, so make sure you go back and talk about that. Front Row Motorsports, Rod, wasting no time. They've already acquired a charter. Technically, it doesn't say that it's one of the Stewart-Haas charters, but, 1 + 1 = 2, right? So it is obviously going to be one of the SHR charters. So Front Row Motorsports will expand to 3 cars. We know that Michael McDowell is leaving. Of course, he's going to be taking his talents over to Spire. So Todd Gilliland, you would assume, comes back. A lot of rumors Cole Custer is going to replace McDowell in the 34, which would make sense with the SHR Xfinity team going away as well. And then now all the speculation and rumors are, is Josh Berry going over there? Is it Josh Berry, Rodney Childers kind of pairing? Do they just kind of absorb that entire 4 team, turn it into likely the 36? That's usually the other number they use. But that is kind of the first domino of this. Not really a surprise because they've been one of the teams that had been rumored as one of the teams, picking up these charters as they were getting sold off.
And that's not really a bad thing either because, Michael McDowell has started to make this at least a more respectable. And then Todd Gilliland.
And Gilliland actually hasn't been doing that bad. And so they moved up to tier 1 partner with Ford. Right now, SHR is going out of the picture. You kind of think Front Row is going to slide right into that SHR spot as the next Ford team. We know it's Penske. We know it's Roush, RFK at the top, but they're kind of that next Ford team right there. So, crazy, to watch these teams, and it's been fun to watch like them, Spire, and even Rick Ware now, like going from just the absolute bottom of barrel. Like front row was not any good when they started. Now they've won some Truck Series championships, and moving forward and continuing to look better and better on a week-to-week basis. So that's great to see. Rod, I don't know if you've seen this news yet, since I know you've been busy this afternoon. Did you see who's going to race the number 7 truck in Nashville?
No.
Oh,
not.
buddy. Clint Boyer's making his return.
What?
Clint Boyer is going to drive the number 7 hot rod truck.
You know what it was? You know what it was, Cody? He could not stand that Kevin Harvick got in the car and raced 100%. He could not stand it. He was like, I have to get in something and drive because Kevin can't be the only one in this booth that is driven.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be it. So we haven't seen Boyer in a car at all since 2020. Phoenix was his final race in the Cup Series, and that was it. Hasn't raced in the truck since 2016. So hopefully it won't be like Eric Almirola where he doesn't actually get the chance to start. But plan is for him to be in the Spire 7 truck in Nashville. Brian Patty is the crew chief on that truck, former crew chief for Boyer in the Cup Series as well. So that's pretty cool that we'll get to see him back in the booth, or not in the booth. We always see him in the booth all the time, but back behind the wheel of a truck, at least in this case. So the other news, Rod, Austin Hill docked 25 points, fined $25K for the incident on Cole Custer on Saturday. Still think maybe a suspension should have happened here with the way that Elliott was suspended last year for wrecking someone on this track. Same thing with Bubba Wallace a couple of years ago when he purposely wrecked, I think it was Larson that might have been Texas or something, but on a mile and a half. I get maybe the severity of this one was a little different. I don't know. I feel like it should have maybe been a bigger penalty than that, but that's what NASCAR has decided. And at least at the time of recording for this, still no news on a Kyle Larson waiver. That's not necessarily too big of a surprise. Sometimes it takes a while for them to kind of finalize that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Austin Hill, I mean, King talking about Austin Hill, it should have been suspended. I will save the rest of his comment for the censors, but yeah, I mean, that's.
It seems to me like you suspended Elliott. I get that they weren't going as fast when it happened, but it was almost the same exact race a year ago, right? The Cup Series race instead of Xfinity, but at the same time, the same weekend, on the same track. Where do we draw the line? I guess I don't know. It's different. The Kyle Busch, I know he wrecked Ricky Stenhouse. Maybe he should have been fined for that, but at North Wilkesboro. But it's different on a short track than it is on these bigger tracks. But I don't know. Austin Hill obviously has some anger issues, Rod.
Oh my God!
He was very frustrated with multiple people last week. So points fine, I guess, and that's and a little monetary stuff is what they're going to get him with, and that's it.
And Sheldon Creed, also another guy that he never really liked at all, I suppose. Nick Fortune in the chat saying, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. Who are we blowing our wad on this race?" Hang on, I must do this.
We got to do the drinking game every time Nick says that's blowing his wad. Again, go check out the clip on the X of Old Fashioned Football. Rather hilarious show when Rod and Nick were on that last week.
Yeah, Nick, thankfully that's just water, because if that were anything alcoholic like on the show the other week, then that would have been just murder. Okay. We are going to be talking Gateway, and that is, of course, the race that we are here to break down for the Cup Series, guys. But first, let's tell you about Underdog Fantasy. The NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor at Underdog Fantasy wants to make it a lot more interesting. Underdog Fantasy, let's face it, it's the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. Of course, as we know, in the world of racing, better than or worse than the projected finishing position of the driver of your choice. You can make entries in all just basketball if you want, which I don't know why, because there's all kinds of other good stuff you can mix and match across, just like racing, just like hockey, just like basketball's already there, but just like any other thing that's out there that you like. Baseball is another one of them. Plus, Underdog's available all over the map, and new customers are going to get a pick'em special in the lobby when they sign up. Underdog's also going to be running a ton of different promos like bonus cash airdrops. They got specials, giveaways, and more all throughout the NBA playoffs. So make sure to follow at Underdog Picks on Twitter to keep an eye out on what all of those good stuff is going to be. Underdog's available in 30 plus states, including California, Texas, and Canada. Not to mention, they just launched Champions, their player versus player format in Florida. You want to get down on that? Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com promo code RACESGPN.
Entry list real quick, Rod. We have no open cars entered in this one. So your two rotating cars, Cody Ware is back behind the wheel of the 15, and Derek Kraus is going to be in the 16 car, which makes the most sense since AJ Allmendinger, Shane Van Gisbergen will be in Portland, tackling the Portland road course there for Xfinity. So Kraus is stepping in the 16 this week.
We're not going to have AJ Allmendinger get in a helicopter to get into a jet to get in a helicopter to try to get into Gateway. Like that's not how we're working this.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you remember last year when he was, racing for points in the Cup Series and missing practice for trying to race the Xfinity race, and things didn't go well, and they took a lot of hate for that. So, that's how it goes. But Jessica checking in. Afternoon, guys. What about Logano? What about him, Rod? My thoughts on Logano. Hardest guy in the garage to predict. So good luck with that. Paul checking in. Shout out to Paul. Says Gibbs, Penske, and JGR, which JGR is Gibbs, but that's okay. I think we're going to be talking about both of those teams quite a bit today. Rod, one bet on a Chevrolet on my entire card. I think that I would like to start the show out by saying that, because you're going to notice quite a trend as I get into my picks here.
It's funny. I didn't set out to have this happen, but I only have one bet on one bet.
Two. Yeah, I get you got two in a way, but
really
two in
a way, but really one. Yeah. So
it's are you ready to jump into it, Rod?
Well, I'm ready to set the race up real quick.
We should probably do that first.
Yeah, we are at the World Wide Technology Raceway at Gateway in Madison, Illinois, set for 240 laps around this 1.250 paved track, a 300-mile, scheduled 300-mile race. We'll see how that holds up. If Fox needs any more ESPN Ocho programming to fill.
Not Fox's fault if you listen to Kevin Harvick and Caitlin Vint, Rod. That was 100% on NASCAR, they say.
Kevin's not going to say that because Kevin's checks are signed by. Listen, do you know how many things I don't say because my employer signed that check? I'm like, no, it was never their fault. But but again, this is a not mile and a half. It's not quite a mile, right? It's Britney Spears, not a girl, not yet a woman. It's right in between. It's right there in that gray area. So there's not a lot of tracks that compare to this, obviously, but we will talk about some of the more, I guess, comparable tracks in the mile and a thirds and the mile tracks and compare.
Yeah, this one's really weird because it is a mile and a third, so it's more similar like a Darlington size, but it doesn't really compare to Darlington in any way, shape, or form other than the size. You can kind of compare it more to like New Hampshire, Phoenix, Richmond, but even those tracks are shorter. This is an intermediate package track, but I will say, even though it's an intermediate track position is pretty important here. Going to be tough to pass from what we've seen the last couple of seasons. It's definitely, this is a tougher one as far as not really any direct comparisons to kind of look at and be like, okay, they did this here. It should be kind of similar here. Some things you could take away from some other tracks and style of racing, though.
And what makes it even more tough, they've only run this race twice. They've only run this on this track twice in their career. So it's, we're flying by the seat of our pants for the most part on this one. But all right, Cody, where are your pants taking you right now? The seat of your pants taking you right now?
Yeah, Rod, this is not something that happens very often, but fading Hendrick Motorsports this weekend a little bit. They have not been good here, exception of Kyle Larson, which is generally the case, right? He's been decent, but even not as good as Kyle Larson history would tell you most places, but really have not been very good at Gateway the 2 seasons that we've come here. I kind of expect that to continue, Rod. I'm going to start with Joe Gibbs Racing to finish over Team Hendrick. So it's the entire team versus the entire team. You get the 4 Joe Gibbs guys against the 4 Hendrick guys, -120 over on Caesars. My thought here, Rod, is you get Christopher Bell, who I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Really good at New Hampshire, really good at Phoenix. Some of these kind of, good at Richmond as well, which we know JGR dominates in general. You get Martin Truex Jr., you're going to talk about him in a little bit, which I'm going to agree with the bet you're going to give out. Same thing. Really good at New Hampshire, really good at Phoenix, really good at Richmond. You're going to get Denny Hamlin. Same thing, right? Really good at those tracks as well. You also get Ty Gibbs, and we don't have a ton on him here, obviously, but the way he's been running the season, I'm all in for that. On the other side of things, and kind of looking back, so Kyle Larson, 12th place the first season he came here, 4th place last season. So definitely an improvement there, but not, running first kind of like you expect. And if he finishes 4th, I'm going to take the bet that there's going to be a Gibbs car in front of him there. Chase Elliott only started this race 2 seasons ago, 21st in that race. Corey LaJoie was filling in the 9 car for this race last year, the one Chase Elliott was suspended for. LaJoie did not have a good day, but it was like, well, you couldn't expect him to because the 9 car hadn't been good here. Hendrick in general hadn't been good here. William Byron, 19th and 8th in his 2 starts. So 8th is okay, but again, that's not going to beat these JGR cars. Alex Bowen, 13th and 26th in his 2 starts. Not very great. You go over to the other side of things for Gibbs, 5th and 6th for Truex, 9th and 11th for Bell, 34th for Denny, which wasn't good, obviously. Got in a wreck the first year, but 2nd last season. Ty Gibbs was 20th in his 1 start, but again, hard to look at what Ty has done in the past. So I like having the 4 Gibbs guys over the Hendrick guys this week in particular, just because Hendrick as a whole has not really found it here. And this is the type of racing and tracks that these Gibbs guys thrive on. And I'm also going to double down and take Martin Truex Jr. specifically over William Byron Rod at -110. Again, Truex has been pretty good here, 5th and 6th in both seasons to Byron, who's been 19th and 8th. So we're 2 for 2 with Truex beating Byron. Again, you're going to make a further case for Truex later, but really, 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 really fucking good at New Hampshire. Absolutely obliterated everyone there last season. And then he's also been really good at Richmond, of course, and pretty solid at Phoenix as well. Phoenix earlier this season, Rod, going back to the Gibbs thing, right? You had all 4 Gibbs guys lead over 50 laps in that race. They were all 4 really good there. Another day where Hendrick didn't really show up and wasn't as good. So, I'm liking Gibbs over Hendrick in this week in particular. Again, Hendrick is still going to be fine, and Larson's probably going to be in the mix. But I think the strength of all 4 Gibbs guys going to be better than the Hendrick guys, so I'll take that. And then Martin Truex Jr. specifically as well over William Byron at -110.
I'm with you on that as well because, as much as we love as much as I love me some Hendrick Motorsports, I have to yield to the numbers when it comes to this because these guys have been, Gibbs has been just absolutely dominant on all of these tracks, let alone this one in the 2 years that it's been around as far as a NASCAR race is concerned. So I'm with you on that. And like you said, I'll make a better case later for Martin Truex Jr. and what I think he's going to do in this race. And I will give you the first bet that I'm going to lay out. But first, I would like to tell you about Rhythm. If you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm gives you a menu of the best player props for every single NBA playoff game, making it easy to go through and find the best props to put your money on in seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning our algorithm to give you the best shot at winning. Rhythm pairs its prediction with player prop graphs to help you feel even more confident in your picks, which you can make wherever you normally place your bets or DFS picks. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data without you needing to endlessly scroll a sportsbook. Rhythm also allows you to create your own custom NBA models so you can get AI-backed moneyline spread and total picks for every playoff game. Start your free 7-day trial and start winning your NBA player props with Rhythm, available wherever you get your apps. I do so love when we do get these team versus team props because it usually always ends up in our favor. And I'm going to take one at plus money that I almost don't know why it's here. But again, this is going to have you watching the bottom of the scoreboard. I will guarantee you that one right now. This is a watch every part of the ticker bet for you. And that is taking all of Spire over all of Legacy plus 100. To Cody's point earlier, right? Spire gives you 3 cars versus Legacy's 2 because Jimmy is not in this race. I think Jimmy decided it's time for him to stay retired. God damn, I love Jimmy Johnson so much. I hate to see this.
Another strong 29th place finish last week.
Oh my God. It hurts my soul to know, that's if I start hanging on too long, Cody, please let me know. Please let me know that it's time for me to put down the microphone.
We'll talk after the show, Rod.
Okay. Guys, this has been a fun ride. I'm going to have to ride off into the sunset. No, but listen, obviously, Spire gets you Zane Smith, it gets you Carson Hocevar, it gets you Corey LaJoie. I'm really just counting out Corey LaJoie and Zane Smith right off the jump. Both of those guys I'm hanging all my hopes on Carson Hocevar to pull up this end of the bargain. But let me start with the Legacy Motor Club folks in this one. Eric Jones this season, yes, the Legacy Motor Club. Eric Jones this season, he's had a 20.7 average finish. Now he's starting in 24th and he's finishing in 20th, which means there's a little bit of good movement there, but he's only got one top 10 all season long. You look at, and then of course he broke his back, which you could kind of draw a line. Well, you can't really draw a line because it's all not good. In 8th place at Daytona, 25th in Atlanta, 14th at Vegas, 31st at Phoenix, 20th at Bristol, 32nd at Austin, 14th at Richmond, 12th at Martinsville. Those are a couple of good finishes, but then 19th at Texas, 35th at Talladega, 19th at Darlington, 19th at Charlotte. Like, there's nothing remotely comforting about those numbers for Eric Jones as far as finishing in the top 15 each and every week that he steps in that car, right? Now, if that were the case, I would definitely take Legacy over Spire. However, that's the best driver they've got because John Hunter Nemechek, 23.1, his average finishing position. He has 2 top 10s, which is great for him, but one of those came at Daytona and the other came at a short track in Bristol. So outside of that, we're talking 22nd at Vegas, 25th at Phoenix, 25th at Richmond, 36th at Martinsville, 34th. I mean, these are both crashes in Martinsville and Texas, 34th, 33rd at Talladega, 20th at Dover, which is a mile track, right? 13th at Kansas, that's fine, but 31st at Darlington, 30th at Charlotte. Like, I'm not scared of John Hunter Nemechek beating anybody on the Spire roster, let alone Carson Hocevar, who, like I said, I'm pinning my hopes on. So this is essentially Carson Hocevar, even though I got 3 cars. Carson Hocevar against the 2 Legacy drivers. Carson Hocevar, not really that much better. 21.6 is his average finish so far this season. But I also truly believe that he got a 15th at Vegas, 15th at Phoenix, right? A couple of top 15 finishes. I know that I said Eric Jones had finished better in a couple of those races before, but at least at Martinsville, it was a 17th. At Texas, it was a 10th place finish. Kansas was a bad run for him, 24th, 26th at Darlington, 21st at Charlotte. However, all of those numbers are at least better than John Hunter Nemechek, and some of those were better than Eric Jones. So I'm really just pinning my hopes on the fact that, like I said, Carson Hocevar can hold off the Spire guys. King saying, in Hocevar we trust. Hey, I'll mint a penny for that one. But yeah, if this is Carson Hocevar versus in a head-to-head between the 2 Legacy guys, I'm taking Carson Hocevar at even money, plus 100 for this.
I like it, Rod. Yeah, Legacy, man, they've really been disappointing. Jones is still dealing with that back injury, which is not a great thing to be going through. I've got some more thoughts on Hocevar in a minute too, so that'll back up your points here and that I like, Rod. So next up for me, Rod, we're gonna go over to Mr. Noah Gragson. You got to find a way to work him in every week because he's made us a lot of money this year, and hopefully he's gonna do so again this week. So I'm going to take him 2 different ways. I'm going to take him top 10 finish plus 290. And then I'm also going to take him to win Group G over on Caesars. This is over Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, and Daniel Suarez. Rod, looking back at Noah Gragson. So he actually doesn't have, I don't think he started here, did he? Oh yeah, he was 38th last year. But Rod, that was in the 42 car. And again, we're kind of throwing stuff out, or 31st last year, I guess. But Chase Briscoe, 24th and 34th in his 2 starts. Not good. Daniel Suarez, 23rd the first season here. He was 7th last year. Maybe that's a little bit of an outlier, though. Can we rely on Daniel Suarez to get 7th place again? Yeah, probably not. I'm not gonna fall for that, Rod. So Josh Berry obviously has not started here either. I know things have gotten a little better for Berry lately, and they've started to look up, right? A few good runs here lately. Still not fully bought in, Rod. I know that these Stewart-Haas guys have seen this coming, but now there's going to be a little more pressure on them. So it will be interesting to see who can handle the pressure and who kind of folds under the pressure. But Noah Gragson has just been on a tear, Rod, and a guy that I want to continue to back. You go back and look what he's done lately for you. 11th place on the All-Star race. That's a good run for him there, having come through the Open, obviously. Really, he came in through the vote. He was voted in by the fans and still finishes 11th. 14th at Darlington, not a bad day, but 9th at Kansas, 6th at Dover, 3rd at Talladega right before that. You go back, he's had some other good runs earlier this season. He's the guy that I trust the most in this group. I don't trust Daniel Suarez as far as I can throw him. Josh Berry, I'm still skeptical a little bit on it. Chase Briscoe, probably the guy who scares me the most, but his 2 runs here, Rod, have not been good at all. I know he tends to be a short, flat track guy, but this isn't really a short flat track. It's just a flat track. And so I'm kind of out on Briscoe this week. Again, 24th and 34th in his 2 starts here. So give me Noah Gragson to finish inside the top 10 like he's done quite a few times this season, almost 3-1 at plus 290. And then also to win Group G over on Caesars, plus 225 over Berry, Briscoe, and Suarez. Trioval Life checking in the comments, Rod, host of our all day over the 3 Legacy Motor Club drivers. So everyone's liking your side on that take. And again, plus money on that too, or even money at least. Really, really good bet by you.
Yeah, I mean, and he only has to dodge 2 of those bullets this weekend. He doesn't have to dodge the 3rd, even though the 3rd doesn't.
Is Jimmy Johnson a bullet anymore, Rod?
He looks like Neo in the
Why do we keep having to trash on Jimmy? Yeah,
I'm not even trashing.
I love the guy, but
I'm literally just telling the truth. Like I said, he's like he's Neo in the Matrix. He doesn't have to dodge the bullets. The bullets are dodging him. But all right. I'm going to go with my next bet. I'm weeping. All right. Listen, I hate this day because I don't like talking about Jimmy Johnson in a negative light. I'm gonna go light some candles to Jimmy, the old Jimmy. And
the 48 Jimmy.
We're gonna reminisce on some good times. I'm gonna go watch some races with him in it that are killing it. But somebody that's kind of killing it lately, and that's Bubba Wallace. Top 10 numbers are out. Thank God, you books, for giving us top 10 numbers this week. Bubba Wallace top 10 on Bet365. Got him at almost 2-1, plus 190 for Bubba Wallace as a top 10. I know that this is not a popular take because there's not a lot of folks that really do enjoy a good Bubba Wallace bet especially on this show, but I do. And Bubba Wallace, 7th place at Darlington, 11th place last week at Charlotte, kind of close to that, but 7th at Texas, 4th at Martinsville. A light switch flipped on him after Richmond and really after Bristol because he finished 15th on the road course in Austin, 13th at Richmond, 4th at Martinsville, like I said, 7th at Fort Worth. Crashed out of Dover, or else I think he would have been in for a better day. He did lead a lap in that one. Started 16th, ended up crashing out and having a pretty bad day. 17th at Kansas, but that wasn't his fault either because Kansas was a wacky race in and of itself. So I think Bubba Wallace could have a decent day on this track. Unfortunately, last year was a bad year for him. He did crash out in 30th place, but our good buddies over there at iFantasy Race have given him an asterisk, which I would like to share part of that with you. If you want the full asterisk report, make sure to go to iFantasyRace.com because they've got some great information about all the drivers that you want to learn about. But for Bubba Wallace, this was a top 10 contender last year at Gateway, but he finished in 30th. In lap 236, he was running 11th. Then had a brake failure and crashed, which led to a 30. He had the 13th best total speed ranking and an average of 14.8 running position. I know that is not inside of the top 10, but this year, Bubba Wallace has shown that he can reach the top 10. And at 2-1, if we think that Toyotas are going to be strong, in particular, Joe Gibbs Toyotas are going to be strong, then you got to know that those 2311 Toyotas are not going to be too far behind. And Bubba, he's just got to keep his head on him. And he knows this. He knows that the biggest problem with him finishing races is not necessarily the equipment that's underneath him. It's him getting in his head. He's admitted as much every single race that you talk about it. So if he can keep a clean head and if he can keep a clean car, I think a top 10 finish is well within his right. And plus 190 is a great number for that.
Yeah, I like it at almost 2-1, Rod. I think it's a good number. I think there's going to be some extra spots open in the top 10. I think he can have a good run. And expect the Toyotas to be pretty decent this weekend. So, Rod, moving over to my top 10s. I got a couple of guys I like for top 10s as far as the longer shots. Obviously gave out the Gragson one already at almost 3-1, but gonna go with Austin Cindric. Yes, don't change the dial. Don't adjust the tuner. You heard that correctly. Austin Cindric, top 10, 5-1, Rod. And Carson Hocevar, you mentioned before, top 10 at 6-1. Austin Cindric, not a guy we talk about very often, Rod. And, well, there's a good reason for that. He doesn't usually finish near the top 10, unfortunately. But in 2 races here at Gateway, 11th and 13th. To Jessica's thought on Logano earlier, Logano's actually been really good. King, thank you. Crack is one hell of a drug, he says. It is. But to Jessica's point earlier about what about Logano, right? Logano's actually been really good here. The hard thing to bet on him this week is because his numbers are all shot because he's been so good here. But Cindric has actually showed up and done really well. 11th and 13th in 2 races, Rod. You're going to give him to me at 5-1 when in 2 races he's been 1 and 3 spots outside of the top 10. I like those odds. I like the chances of that. 20th at Charlotte, 20th at Darlington, 15th at Dover. It's not been all roses for Cindric here lately, and he's not a guy that's hanging around inside or near the top 10 very often. But that could be the story this weekend. Wow, look at Austin Cindric. He's got this good ride all of a sudden. He's doing really well when he's had really a subpar season. And man, he is just when do they I know that his dad is the president of the IndyCar side of things, Rod, but when do you start re-examining him in this ride? Because it's been so freaking bad. Anyways, that's besides the point because this weekend's going to be good, Rod. 5-1 for Austin Cindric, top 10. Again, not a guy that comes up very often. Not a guy I even look at that often, but this track in particular, he's been good here the last couple of seasons. Again, we don't have much to look at. There's not a direct comparison track. Maybe this is just kind of an outlier and hits his sweet spot. Maybe he's hoping they go to Gateway twice a year so he can have 2 good finishes in a single season, which would be good for him. But I like it, Rod, at 5-1. And then Carson Hocevar, you made the point earlier on him at 6-1. He was in this race last season in the 7 car, filling in for Corey LaJoie, who, as I mentioned earlier, was in the 9 car filling in for Chase Elliott. He was kicking ass in this race, Rod. I think he was running like 13th when the brake rotor let go, smashed into the wall. He was probably going to beat Corey LaJoie while he was in the 7 car and LaJoie was in the 9 car. Again, Hendrick has not been good here to that point. But a great race he was running in this race and having a good day. Might have even got a top 10 there. That's before he was full-time in the Cup Series. Now you look at what he's done this season over with Spire and how good of a season that he's having for them. Things have been going well. So you go back, you look, he's got a 10th place finish at Texas. He was 15th at Phoenix, which again, kind of a comparable track there. 15th at 6-1 to get improved by only 5 spots. I like that. Had a really strong finish at Las Vegas as well. 17th at Martinsville. Again, some finishes where he's kind of hanging around in that area. So give me Carson Hocevar, top 10, 6-1. Austin Cindric, top 10, 5-1. JDK checking in and backing me up. Absolutely love the Austin Cindric top 10. Thank you, JDK. I appreciate it. I know he had mentioned that in the Discord before as well. And I'm thinking, yes, sir. I was eyeing that also. So, yeah, really like him this week. Oh, look at that. See, this is why I love you guys in the chat. Sam checking in. Austin Cindric top 10 is 8-1 on FanDuel. Rod, I'd like to go back and retract my Austin Cindric top 10 at 5-1. Instead, I'd like to place over on FanDuel Austin Cindric top 10 at 8-1. Thank you, Sam. Much appreciated. That's why you shop around, which obviously I should have done a better job of. I sometimes forget about FanDuel because in general they suck. But good job, FanDuel. Way to be on your shit this week.
Gotta love it. I'm trying to look and see if
Rod's like, wow, is my Bubba Wallace number bigger over there too?
That's what I'm trying
to. Carson Hocevar too. Maybe we should be checking out FanDuel.
Bubba's at plus 200. So yeah, 2-1 over there. So that's a 10.
A little bit better. There you go.
That's a dime. Yeah, you know what? You know when they reevaluate Cindric's ride is when that bow tie money dries up. That's when they reevaluate his ride. Well, Cody, you must have given me the crack pipe because this next bet is a 1,000% cracked out bet. Hold your nose and hit send on this one because you're not going to want to know that you put this one in later on. In fact, I want to look and see.
Holy shit. Carson Hocevar is 10-1 for a top 1 on FanDuel. Jesus Christ, Rod. Okay. Yeah. So also changing that bet as well. Go get over to FanDuel. They're giving out some candy this week on their top 10. Sorry, Rod.
Well, no, that's okay because I just found
breaking news that was important.
I just found a better number on this one as well, too. So Kyle Busch, top 5, is actually plus 260 over on FanDuel right now. So make sure you get down on that. So Kyle Busch, top 5, plus 260. I am going to read to you Kyle Busch's average finish at World Wide Technology. His average finish, 1.5. In 2 starts on this track, Kyle Busch has had a second place finish as he led 66 laps of the 2022 race, and he was on the pole in the 2023 race, and no one was able to take that spot away from him at the end of the race, and finished at the top spot with 121 laps led of these laps that we talked about in this race, the 240 laps. He led a vast majority of them. Is this sexy because Kyle Busch has been doing well lately? No, not even a little. Kyle Busch has not had a season that he would like. His average finish this year, 15.9. However, I will say he did start on the pole and finish 4th at Dover. He led 34 laps in that one. That's not bad. You know what I'm saying? Like that's Kyle Busch getting a little better, and King saying that Kyle Busch top 5 is a hell of a lot better than Cindric top 10. Cody needs a Snickers. You know what? We should probably have Snickers
I could use the Snickers.
Yeah, we need to have a Snickers sponsor this one. But so 4th place.
That's what we need is we need the Snickers sponsorship where it's like, Rod, what a horrible bet. Here, snap into a Snickers, and when we disagree, we just break out the Snickers bar.
Snap into a Snickers. You're not yourself, Rod. What are you placing a bet like that for? Snap into a Snickers.
Mark in Mississippi checking in too. I have a better chance at a top 5 than KFP does.
I mean, yes, which is why I said hold your nose and do it. But at plus 260, it's worth a stab. I mean, like I said, at Dover, he finished 4th. Kansas with 8th place finish, just outside of the top 5. But like I said, and like Cody said too, Austin Cindric, this is kind of the argument you're making. Austin Cindric does poorly all over the place, comes to this track and has it figured out. Kyle Busch, kind of the same way. Like he's going to do horribly all season long this season. Maybe he comes back to Gateway and figures it out and gets back into the top 5 again, like he did at Dover. He can do it. God knows, everybody knows he can do it. I mean, he's one of the best drivers to ever suit up, right? As far as some people are concerned. So for us to be sitting here, like just dumping on him all season long, we did that to Denny Hamlin. And then he turned it around, and then we had to stop doing it to Denny Hamlin. Is this the track that gives Kyle Busch the opportunity to make us stop fading him? I would like to hope so. So a plus 260 for a top 5, something he's done both times he's been on this track. So, yeah, I definitely want to go with that one because that's a good number for a guy that should be better. I mean, again, top 5 numbers for this. Kyle Larson's at minus 120. Denny Hamlin, minus 120. Truex, plus 110. Guess how many of those have won this race before? Neither one of them. Kyle Busch has. So, yeah, I like his top 5 number at plus 260.
Yeah, King saying, hear me out, 100 laps in, middle of the green flag stops. Kyle Busch stays out long, and then humidity hits. Boom, you hit this. The Broken Wheel Bearing podcast checking in. Honestly, Kyle Busch not crazy. 1 here in 23, 2nd in 22. Yeah, that's what I was just saying with, average finish of 1.5. That's why he's got it. I was looking around and trying to figure out, like, I was really hoping that we'd get like a minus 120, even on a top 10. I would have laid that in a heartbeat, Rod. Like minus 170, minus 200 is what it comes out at. And you're like, yeah, not so much. He's 15-1 to win. We kind of had this discussion in the Discord, and it was like, do you take it? Like, I don't know the number's good enough. I think that if you're going to take one on Kyle, if you want to find a way to bet on him, this is the way to do it. The top 5 at plus 260. Look, he's 2 for 2 on being really fucking good here. So, again, last season he was having a good season. He had 3 wins. This was one of them. Obviously, they're not at that level right now, but he can pop up and have a good result. It seems like every race on an intermediate, he's spinning out by himself at one point, and then suddenly he's in the top 10 at the end of the day. So he's still finding a way to get up there and get the results. He's hard to trust lately because the results haven't been there. But again, I think that we're kind of approaching this race differently because it's its own thing. I mean, the lack of Chevrolet bets we have, the fading of Hendrick Motorsports a little bit earlier in the show, getting in on guys like Austin Cindric, who we don't normally bet on. Kyle Busch, not a guy we bet on a lot right now. I think that this kind of goes to show you that this is a little bit of a standalone track and race because it is so much. It's got some somewhat comparable tracks, but it is kind of its own thing. We've got a 2-race sample size. Both of them are in this next-gen car. I think that this just could be an outlier race where you come out afterwards and everybody's going to be like, whoa, is Hendrick all of a sudden not good anymore? What's going on? And it's like, well, no, they just haven't been good at this track, so don't worry about it. They're going to be fine wherever we go next week, right? I think that that could be kind of how this pans out. So Mark with his moonshot parlay over here, he's trying to parlay with John Hunter Nemechek, make it really pay, plus 33,200. I'll take your action on that, Mark. John Hunter Nemechek is not going to snip a top 5.
And here's the thing too. I'm not even going near his top 3 number. I mean, it's plus 450, which is sexy as all get out, but I'm going to give him a couple more spots. I'm going to let those spots pay for themselves. If he gets top 3 and I should have bet him at a top 3, I'm not going to cry because again, the chances are he's going to probably finish 4th. So, if you feel froggy and you want to go top 3 because he's done it twice already, plus 450.
Yeah,
but
I feel like it's a safer spot to be in, but you're still getting in on, again, a guy who's got a first and a second place. Like, that's pretty fucking good as far as the stats go. So I think you found the right way to get in on it, Rod. A guy I'm going to take for a top 5 is Chris Buescher, plus 275. Expect Ford to be pretty strong this weekend. Chris Buescher has been on fire. Now, Rod, if you look at 6 of his last 7 races, he's finished outside the top 15. When Ryan over at iFantasy Race tweeted that out, I go, no fucking way. And I looked and I'm like, okay, actually he has, but it's not been for lack of being good, right? Obviously really close to Kansas. Darlington, he's possibly going to win there late. So I think even though the results have not been there for Chris Buescher, the speed has been, right? They found something. They've really unlocked it. He was 12th place last year, so not a bad run. I think that, again, RFK has continued to progress. I think Ford's continued to progress. I think he can do a little better. He didn't run this race in 2022. I was trying to remember what the reason was he was out. I don't know if it was still a COVID thing or what it was, but he missed one race, and Zane Smith actually filled in for him in the 17 when he was still full-time in the Truck Series, and had a nice solid run, finished 17th on the day. Not bad for just jumping in and kind of doing a one-off. So strong run both races for the 17 team. I think he can improve on that a little bit. I think that if you put, what he's done lately, not in the results category, but as far as having speed, being in the mix, being there, I like Chris Buescher to get inside the top 5 this week at plus 275.
Yes, I'm with you on that one as well. I know RFK is probably going to come out and show. I mean, these guys have been really fast lately, and they've been showing up when they're supposed to. JDK saying Eric Jones top 10 at 3-1. Yeah, we're not feeling that.
I still just don't trust the back. Like, again, it's like Darlington where I wanted to bet on him. I would like to bet on Eric Jones on this type of race because this is the type of track where maybe he could show up and do good, but I know it's only 300 miles. Maybe we only do like 151 this week, whatever NASCAR feels like, if there's like a bead of sweat dripping down the window or something. But I just don't trust the back still.
Yeah, that's just a reason we talked about earlier in the show as far as when we pick Spire over Legacy altogether. All right, my next one is a guy that we don't really have to argue about, and that's Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs has been on an absolute tear as of late. His top 3 number is at 4-1. I feel like that is highly a good number to jump on for a few reasons. One, well, 5th place in Las Vegas. I know that's not a top 3, but I mean, again, this is his 2nd season out of the box. Getting a 5th place at Las Vegas is great. Turns around, gets a 3rd place at Phoenix, who, again, we know is not a mile point 2. It is a mile track. However, that's still a good finish there. And then turns around over the last couple of weeks, 2nd place at Darlington, and then a 6th place last week, but he started on the pole. I wonder what would have happened had we been able to run the whole race. Would he have been able to kind of hang it out? I mean, he led 74 laps in that race. Ty Gibbs was looking to have a really solid finish that day, and I feel like we got cheated out of that as well in the 249 laps that they were able to run in this race. So, again, there's a lot going for Ty Gibbs. I mean, he finished 20th last year in this race, but again, that was his rookie year. Can't really gauge it. But this year, he's been on the cusp, and really over the last 3 weeks has had fantastic starting positions, which is exactly what we were going for as well, right? 6th place at Kansas, 4th place at Darlington, and then started on the pole last week at Charlotte. So he's been improving week after week in qualifying, which gives him the opportunity to run up in clean air early, gives him the opportunity to be able to be among the leaders early, make the strategy calls that will keep him in the lead, right? Because it's a lot harder to make strategy calls when you're 16th versus when you're in the top 5. You know, you kind of, if you're 16th, then you either got to go for broke or you have to hope for chaos. If you're in the top 5, you can dictate the strategy with a lot of these guys. And that's what Ty Gibbs and obviously that whole team likes to do. He did finish or start 2nd at Fort Worth. as well. Started second at Phoenix too. So on these 1.5 miles, these 1.2 miles, these miles, he's qualifying well and hanging around where he's finishing. So, for me, again, we're starting to see Ty really start to kick it up a notch here as the season progresses. Who knows where that leads? I feel like it could lead to yet another top 3 finish. And I'm going to take a shot at 4-1 on a guy like Ty Gibbs to be able to get a finish like that in here, because, when you look at the races, the past races here, it's not really written in stone who's going to be, like you talked about, Kyle Busch and Joey Logano are the two that have been up there before. And who knows if they win, it just doesn't, I think Kyle will do at least a top 5, but I don't know that he's going to win this race again. So I think a guy like Gibbs could get his first win on this track. And that's definitely inside of the top 3. So I'll take top 3 at 4-1 for Ty Gibbs.
Yeah. I don't know if the number's big enough for me to super love it, but I'm not going to argue with the nice Ty Gibbs bet. I think he will be good here again. The comparable tracks is where JGR really thrives at. And I think that Gibbs will, again, take advantage of that and do really well. A team that I'm really on this week, Rod, not necessarily because this is kind of where I'm straying off of what have you done for me at this track a little bit, because they've not been overly impressive. But I am on RFK to win the race, 7-1. Give me both guys. You give me Buescher, you give me Keselowski, put them both together, 7-1. Then I don't have to pick one, although I'm going to pick one in a minute anyways and double down on it. But then I'm covered if the other one wins, right? So 7-1. Rod, over the last 6 points races in the Cup Series, Brad Keselowski has finished inside of the top 2. How many times do you think he's finished in the top 2 in the last 6 races?
Brad Keselowski in the top 2 over the last 6 races?
Yes.
I'm going to say 1, twice,
4 times in the last 6 races. Brad Keselowski has finished inside the top 2. Second at Charlotte. He won at Darlington, obviously. And then Talladega and Texas, second place in both of those. He has been on freaking fire lately. There was an 11th at Kansas in there. There was a 30th at Dover in there. I get it. Not good days those days. But he's had a really good season. 4th place run at Phoenix. Again, very comparable track to Phoenix. I like that. Bristol was 3rd place. There was a lot of tire and stuff going on in there. But Brad Keselowski has been a man on fire this season. And this gives you him, and it gives you Chris Buescher, who, again, results haven't quite been there for Buescher lately, but he has been, really good here lately and going a lot of speed as well. So I'm really, really just feeling the RFK guys. I'm in on both of them this week. So give me both of them, either one to win, basically, with RFK to win at 7-1, Rod.
I mean, we've talked about it time and time again when it comes to these RFK guys, as far as running within the same vicinity of each other week in and week out. So hell, if Buescher ends up winning and Keselowski finishes second again, or Keselowski finishes first and Buescher's in second, I mean, yeah, they're going to probably be right next to each other, or maybe even 3rd place. I don't know. Give them a couple of spots as well. But yeah, I mean, I can't argue with the numbers. Keselowski's been fast lately, no matter where you're going. So stands to reason he'll be fast here.
Four top 6 or 4 top 2 finishes in 6 races. Like, as I was looking through his stats, I'm just like, I feel like he's been good lately, but holy shit. Now, a lot of those have been second places. Obviously, he's only got the one win at Darlington. But now that once you get that monkey off your back, like, Keselowski's a guy who's capable of winning a lot of, don't forget him in that 2-car, Rod. I know the 2 cars have been good for a few seasons now, but he fucking tore it up in that car before. And he's definitely got that capability. So, yeah, just love getting both these guys at 7-1. Feel really covered there.
Well, for my next bet, one of those RFK guys would satisfy the conditions for this bet to cash as well. Yes, it is my weekly winning car number bet. Yes, if you are tired of those, fast forward 2.5 minutes and you won't have to listen to it ever again. However, if you want to win, this is the way you do it. Winning car number for me, I'm going to take the over 16.5 at -110. Allow me to read you those that scare me in the under category for this one. It involves Denny Hamlin, maybe Ryan Blaney. That's about it. I'm not really scared of Ross Chastain on this track. Not scared of Austin Cindric to win. Definitely not scared of Dillon to win. Not scared of Barry to win. Kyle Larson, you could argue.
Be scared of him every week, but
less
this week.
Yeah, but this isn't one where I'm going to be putting my nightlight on for the ghost of Kyle Larson to not get me in the middle of the night. Brad Keselowski, yes, of course, if he wins, but that'll get you the RFK bet at 7-1, so you won't cry if you lose this bet as well. Chase Elliott, Gragson, again, for reasons we've talked about earlier, I'm not really necessarily worried about them. What you get on the other side of this 16.5, right? You get Derek Kraus. I'm sorry, no, never mind. You get Chris Buescher. You get Martin Truex. You get Christopher Bell. You get Logano, who's won this race before. You get Bubba Wallace, who we talked about is going to run decent. You get Byron, right? You get Reddick, who could end up winning a race here and there. You get Bowman, who could figure out how to win a race, but not necessarily there. And then maybe Daniel Suarez at the end to back into that, but I'm not necessarily that. But the list of names that I read off there are a lot better off than some of the ones beneath it. And I think, as you look at Denny Hamlin's the Gibbs driver that's underneath this number, that would definitely give you pause. But every other Gibbs driver is on the other side of this number, right? And if we think JGR is going to be good, then give us the 3 out of 4 chances to hit on that one as well. Plus, I talked about it too. You've got your RFK guy over there. And you've got a couple other guys that have won this race. Well, Joey Logano's won this race before. Can he do it again? We're not predicting it, but it could happen. Who knows? So yeah, I mean, I just feel like the other side of 16.5 is just a little better than the underside. Not to say that somebody under 16.5 can't win this race, but I feel we get better odds on the other side of it. So give me winning car number over 16.5 at -110.
Yeah, I have 3 outrights, Rod. All of them over this number. So completely agree with you. I really don't have much of an argument. I think getting the 3 Gibbs cars over, that really helps. Obviously, you don't have Denny Hamlin, which sucks, but getting the other 3 in there along with all those other guys you mentioned, I really do like that.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the leader odds as far as outrights are concerned, Hamlin's on top, Larson's on top, but then you get Bell, Truex, Blaney's in there too, but then Byron, then Reddick, then Logano. There's only 2 drivers or 3 drivers rather underneath that in the top 9 as far as the favorites are concerned. So yeah, that's where my money lays. So hoping you guys follow it as well. King says that also gives you the race favorite Harrison Burton. Yeah, that'll do it.
Well, racing for a job too, it sounds like, Rod. So maybe he won't show up actually. So never mind.
Speaking about winners, Ricardo thinks that Busch is going to win it. Who do you think is going to win it, Cody?
Well, again, we talked about Kyle Busch a little bit ago. Make sure you go back and listen to that. Also, Mark checking in with the Noah top 10. I did give that one out at plus 290 earlier on too. So make sure you go back and listen to those picks. But my outright winners, Rod, Christopher Bell 10-1. Love some Christopher Bell this week. I think that he's one of these guys that, again, it's very hit and miss with him, which I think is why a 10-1 outright is the right area to get him in. But he's coming off the momentum of winning, Rod. I know it was weird, right? He got woken up from his nap, declared the winner because it was, or not even foggy. It was humid outside. So, but hey, momentum, I guess you could carry that forward, right? The All-Star race a couple weeks ago, yeah, the result's not good, but he was maybe one of the 2 guys who had a chance to actually beat Joey Logano in that race and do good. Some comparable tracks that we mentioned, Rod. Phoenix, oh yeah, really fucking good there. Won there also earlier this spring, leading 50 laps, right? New Hampshire, oh yeah, really fucking good there. Richmond, oh yeah, he's pretty good there as well. So he's had some good runs here. Again, could almost won the All-Star race, 6th at Kansas, which wasn't bad, 6th at Richmond after he started 29th. So fought through adversity that day, got up front, won that Phoenix race, like I mentioned before, was really fast at Phoenix in the fall. The championship race, obviously, had a brake rotor that that went out on him. He's been really good in New Hampshire last season, did wreck early in that one, but has been really good there in the past and has won as well. And then Richmond, he was 4th last spring there also. So I like Christopher Bell to win this one at 10-1. I also like Tyler Reddick, Rod. I think 12-1 is a really good number for Reddick. Again, kind of the same story, right? Either you're going to get a good day or you're not going to get a good day. It seems like it could go either way. But Ryan over at iFantasy Race pointing out last season, Reddick spun out early in this, so he made his asterisk report, got back up to the front, a little bit of combination of strategy and fuel stuff to get back up there, but he did. Then he was running in 6th place when his brakes failed on him and ends up with a bad finish. He was 16th here in his first season. That was in the RCR car. Again, he was kind of on his way out at that point. I think they had already announced as well. So kind of a lame duck at that time. But he does have those flashes. 68 laps he led earlier this season at Phoenix. Again, very comparable track. He was 3rd place at Phoenix last spring, 6th place at New Hampshire last year as well. So I do like Tyler Reddick at 12-1. And then Chris Buescher. I'm going to double down on the RFK to win. Obviously, I took that at 7-1. But I'm also going to take Buescher by himself. 20-1, Rod. The number just seems too big for as hot as this RFK team has been, as much better as Ford has been looking here lately. Again, Ford won at Darlington. Then Ford wins the All-Star race. 2nd place again last week with Keselowski. They're really starting to show some stuff here. Buescher has obviously been part of that. He had, he won 3 races last season. Hasn't gotten any this season, but not for lack of trying. Closest 2nd place finish ever in history, right? He's been really close. I think it's time for him to bust back through and get back in the victory column. I think at 20-1, just too good to pass up on. So Christopher Bell 10-1, Tyler Reddick 12-1, Chris Buescher 20-1. And I think that not interested in any of the tall favorites this week. You got Denny Hamlin 5-1. No, thank you. You know how much I love Denny, but I'm not feeling that good about it. Larson at 7-1 is definitely a no this week. And then even a Blaney at 8-1, not too impressive. So I like being able to start with Bell at 10-1. And then also, these guys that you're looking at as well.
Well, and again, when we talked about JGR and we were talking about the top of that heap, we were talking about 3 out of the 4 being somebody we liked out of this. And so guess what? We're giving you 3 out of the 4 because both of my outrights belong to Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm going to take Martin Truex Jr. His number's at 9-1. He has yet to win a race this season. I understand. But I'm telling you right now, when you look, so the great part about iFantasy Race, we gush about them all the time. Because so what I tend to do, this is my research method, right? I go through, I look at all of the tracks myself. I go through, I dig through the stats. I kind of compile what I think is what I got. And then I take it and I say, well, what does Ryan think about this? And if Ryan's research and mine add up, I'm like, okay, well, then there it is. And if we don't, then I go back and I dig, well, what did I miss? Did I miss anything? If I didn't and we still disagree, then I'm still going to go with what I think. But, again, his stats and everything that he does, it's so great. So we look at these stats like next gen shorter flat track total speed rankings. I mean, you would get super specific, right? Martin Truex Jr. right behind Ryan Blaney in 2nd place there. All sorts of single digit rankings, including a 1st at New Hampshire in both the 2022 and 2023. He was the 6th fastest in total speed at Gateway in 2022. 8th at 2023. So again, he was fast on the track. You look at what he's done on this track. He's got a 6th place finish and a 5th place finish. He's finished inside of the top 6 in both of these races. And we know that Truex is capable of winning, especially when he meanders and lingers around the top of the charts. He has 4 top 5 finishes in 14 starts this season, including a 3rd at Dover, a 4th at Kansas. Really wish we could have seen what he would have done in Charlotte. Feel like, again, we got robbed out of a good Martin Truex Jr. finish in that one. But 7th at Phoenix, 7th at Vegas, 2nd at Bristol, 4th at Richmond. I mean, if anybody's due, it's Martin Truex Jr. at this point, right? I mean, I feel like he's got to be able to be one of them. He is the total speed ranking. He's the fastest car in total speed ranking to date heading into this. It's hard to believe, given that he doesn't have a win, but Martin Truex Jr., the only time he's finished outside of the double digits in speed ranking is Martinsville in Texas and Talladega and Darlington, but not very often, right? I mean, that's more races that he has finished inside of the top 5, right? He's 5th at Daytona, 2nd in Atlanta, 4th at Vegas, 2nd at Phoenix, 2nd at Bristol, 1st at Richmond, 9th at Coda, 3rd at Dover, 2nd at Kansas in terms of total speed rankings. I mean, he's been fastest overall this season. He's due a win, I think, in this particular race in general. So, give me Martin Truex Jr. at 9-1. I think he's due. And then, just for fun, I don't normally do more than one, but Ty Gibbs is speaking to me because we talked about him earlier in this episode. 14-1 on Superbook for Ty Gibbs. Hold on, now I got to double check and see what his outright number is on FanDuel because FanDuel's been giving us some really great. Ty Gibbs 12-1 on FanDuel. All right, so 14-1 on Superbook for Ty Gibbs. I feel like it's good enough to take a stab on. He's due as well, I suppose, if due is due. He's been knocking at the door. Maybe he can kick this one down and give him that. So give me Martin Truex at 9-1 and Ty Gibbs at 14-1 this week.
Yeah, no arguments for either of those guys. Talked about how much I love Gibbs this week, obviously. Truex, honestly, it was between Bell and Truex for me. Which one do I take? Leaned a little bit more towards the Bell side, but I don't mind taking both of them by any means for sure. Truex, I think at 9-1 is a great number also. And then Gibbs at 14-1. Again, I'm never going to argue with the Gibbs bet, Rod. Neither is King. He is now electing you as president. Rod for president with the Ty Gibbs call out. So there you go. Mark also checking in. NASCAR owes the number 9 a win, so give me that at 16-1. That 9 car has been shit here in the last 2 seasons. And Hendrick, again, like we talked about early in the show, not been great. Just I'm very off of Chase Elliott this week. Honestly, I'd sort of be surprised if he's in the top 10 at the end of the day. As tough as that is to say, as an Elliott fan myself, but I just have no belief in them at this track in particular, unless they've cracked some code that they deciphered somewhere and whatever. But I just don't see that happening, Rob.
Yeah, and it really is telling that we did leave we did leave Denny Hamlin off of this list as far as who we're favorited. But Denny Hamlin, he can win a race.
His numbers,
they're not the greatest.
Again, that's the thing with the bets sometimes. I know JDK likes to make fun of me for betting on Sheldon Creed last week, but 35-1, it was worth it. But yeah, Joey Logano's tough this week. Joey Logano is too. I don't know why we keep saying Joey Logano, but Denny Hamlin's tough this week because, minus 120 for a top 5, but I don't know when his teammates could also be as good. We've seen him make some mistakes. If a guy parks a little bit the wrong way in front of him in a pit stall, he melts down and he's going to have a horrible race because of it. That's the kind of stuff that makes you hesitant on wanting to bet on him, because it's like everybody's pitting on this pit road, dude. Figure it out. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like you just started driving yesterday. So, all right, get out your pen and paper. We are going to go over our bets for this Enjoy Illinois 300. And of course, for those of you on YouTube, now's the time for the fun little graphic that we produce each and every week for you. Cody started you out with Gibbs as a team over Hendrick at minus 120. I said that Spire would finish better than Legacy at plus 100. Cody gave you Noah Gragson to win Group G over there on, Cody also gave you Truex over Byron at minus 110. And then Cody gave you Gragson to win Group G on Caesars. I said that Bubba Wallace would be a top 10 car at plus 190. Cody said Austin Cindric would be a top 10 car. We're getting this at plus 800. So make sure you're heading to FanDuel. I know I made this graphic before we made the change. So it's 5-1 somewhere else, but it's 8-1 on FanDuel. And then Hocevar at 10-1 as a top 10 car as well. Again, shop around for those numbers. The bet still remains. I gave you Kyle Busch as a top 5 number, getting him at plus 260 over on FanDuel. And then Cody gave you Chris Buescher as a top 5 car at plus 275. I said Gibbs would be a top 3 car. That is Ty Gibbs at 4-1. Cody said that RFK would win this race. Either one of them, doesn't matter. Pick one, reach into a hat. If it's Brad, cool. If it's Chris Buescher, awesome as well, at 7-1. I said that the winning car number would come from outside of the 16.5, so over 16.5 at minus 110. Cody went on to say that Bell at 10-1, Reddick at 12-1, and Buescher at 20-1 would be good bets to win this race. I said Truex at 9-1 and Gibbs at 14-1 could win this race at the World Wide Technology Raceway in Madison, Illinois. Cody, we've made it to the end of this episode.
We've made it to the end of this episode, Rod. Are we? I don't know if we want to just plan this on the show right now. Are we doing the Xfinity show tonight?
Hang tight on that one. I think we may try to pull a doubleheader. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll
stay
see.
tuned. We might get back on track this evening, but haven't fully decided yet.
Well, I did see that now there are full odds out on the Xfinity side. So.
Truck Series outrights are out as well. So they're on. Underdogs out already. I should have an article out tomorrow morning on sportsgamblingpodcast.com with some plays on that. So make sure you're staying tuned and checking that out as well.
Yep. So we'll see. Keep an eye out. And again, this is another great way for you guys to go click that subscribe button and click the bell, just so you know when we do go live. And for those of you on the podcast feed, you could have 2 episodes to listen to tomorrow. So just we'll keep you in suspense for that. In the meantime, though, Cody, as those who are watching and those who are listening, tell everyone where they can find you outside of this great green world that we got going on.
Yeah, follow me over on the X at @Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. Ton of NFL stuff out right now. A bunch of future stuff looking forward to the season, so make sure you check all that out. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, Underdog article for NASCAR should be out tomorrow probably on sportsgamblingpodcast.com as well. And yeah, see you next time for Xfinity Series, which is going to be a little different. They're racing on the road course, so completely different racing to break down for them, which is always kind of fun when you get to split it up, and then we'll be back to the oval at Gateway for the trucks later on.
I love it. I know I do love this weekend too, the split weekends. It offers a little more variety in your day. So definitely love that. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on. Whether it's here, maybe we don't do the show tonight. Link in the bio, everything I got going on. Whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, and of course, check out the Back Road with Seth and Elliott as they break down the weekend of racing for you as well. We'll be back later with the Xfinity, and then of course later on even more for trucks and DFS. So until we see each other again, let's go racing and let it ride.